Welcome to episode 21, season 2 of FountainCast, a biweekly podcast brought to you by your Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, striving to be your one-stop fountain of information on your business community. I'm host Karen Anderson.
And I'm co-host Hannah Toth. Be sure to stay tuned after this episode as well to hear about upcoming chamber events. In today's episode, we're here with Nathan Waters from Cummings Termite and Pest Control, here to share with us the different services that they provide in Fountain Hills, as well as his Fountain Hills story. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We are so happy to have you. So, of course, to start us off, just tell us a bit more about yourself and what brought you to Fountain Hills.
Well, I had graduated from a little school up in Minnesota called Gustavus Adolphus College. That's in St. Peter, about 10 minutes south of, or 10 minutes north of Mankato. And upon graduating college, I think that I'm probably like most of us, where you graduate, you don't quite know exactly what you're going to do. So I took a job for a waste paper processing company out of Minneapolis. And I worked that for a little bit, moved into food distribution, and about 2 years out of school, I received a phone call from my aunt, who is currently a resident of Arizona. She had been working for the Cummings family, and she had basically pitched this idea that, hey, what if you come down and buy this business? And I was 24 years old at the time, and so I thought, this is a great idea, but you don't know what you're getting into at 24, so you just pack a bag and you come on down. And that was how I got my start, was just not knowing enough and making a decision. So I'm still here to this day. So it worked out.
Obviously, you learned quickly.
I had to learn quickly. Yeah, there was a lot of sleepless nights, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Just diving right in, though, that's so inspirational to other young entrepreneurs, I'm sure. Just diving in and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah. I sort of rationalized it by telling myself, look, if this doesn't work, I have time to fix it, right? So because you're young enough, if you end up in the dirt, you can dust yourself off.
Absolutely.
And continue to move forward. But what I learned quickly was that, and it sounds sort of cliche, but failure wasn't really an option because I had my family backing me. And that was my driver. So I recognized that out the gate was, look, I have these individuals that I respect more than anything counting on me. I have to make this work. And that was sort of the decision I made, that no matter how tough this gets, no matter how little I know, I was going to figure this all out and ultimately turn it into something that they can be proud of. So
Good job.
yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So tell us what you do for fun.
I'm a big outdoors guy. I love to camp, I love to hunt, I love to fish. I've got two older boys, one I hunt with and one I fish with, because neither are interested in the other. I've got one that there's no way he could maintain any sort of tranquility in the deer stand, so he fishes. And then I've got the other one that's just totally not interested in fishing at all, so I get to hunt with him. So that works out pretty well. And then I've got a group of guys that I camp with on a pretty regular basis. I usually do all my camping back up in the Midwest.
What about your hunting? Is that here in Arizona? Did you put in for your elk tag?
I did not put in for elk because I don't hunt elk. I know it sounds terrible. I don't even.
No, that's okay.
Can we edit that? Don't even put that in. And that's not that I have anything against it, but I think I probably made the mistake of spending so much time back in the Midwest for my hunting that I never really developed a sort of a hunting strategy group of guys out here. So I'm always back hunting big game in the Midwest, or my favorite hunt is pheasant in October, and I go to South Dakota for that. So those are some things that I really enjoy doing. And then I always tell people this, because I was proud of it. When I was in college, I sought out the rugby club. And I started playing rugby in college, and I also played outside of college, and I still, with the guys that I played with from the Minneapolis team, we still get together a few times a year, and we've traveled the world together. So that's something that, and as long as I'm healthy enough, I still like to get out there and play. So I haven't broken anything yet, I still have all my teeth, so I'll go until I think I lose a tooth, and then I'll be done.
I just have one more hunting question.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned hunting pheasant.
Yeah.
I know that people who duck hunt, they use dogs to help
Yeah.
hunting. Do you do that with
Absolutely,
pheasants?
yeah. We use, typically it's going to be a Labrador Retriever.
Okay.
I've hunted with Brittany's, and I've hunted with a few different types of labs. There was and I don't know if it's actually AKC, but there's an English lab that the guys were pretty turned on to because they were a little bit smaller.
Oh, okay.
And so a little bit more agile
And
when we are working through the grass, because some of that switchgrass or the Sudan grass gets really, really thick, and it's nice to have a dog that can move through there unimpeded. Just adorable animals, and they're fantastic to watch. So we'll go out there and there'll be 10, 12 dogs in the field working all at the same time, and that's part of the enjoyment also, is watching the dogs work. So
Awesome.
And we're dog people. I love dogs, so it's kind of a fun thing.
Now, do they just bring the bird back, or do they get them to like fly out?
Flush?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they work to flush until the bird is down, and then it goes and retrieves the bird and brings it
Got
back.
it.
And all those dogs are what we call soft mouth, so they're not going to mangle that bird.
Sure,
right?
sure.
They grab the bird, they bring it back to you, and that is largely their reward.
So they're doing all the hard work.
They're doing all the hard work, and they love it. They love every minute of it. I get to shoot a gun and then go back and drink wine. That's it. That's probably why I love that.
Deal,
No, it's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah, I don't think elk hunting is quite that much fun.
No, I was on a mule deer hunt just this last season in South Dakota, and that was one of the most grueling hunts I've been on. We had a 2-mile hike just to get to our stage, and then you had a 400-foot drop down into this canyon, and then a 400-foot climb out the other side just to get into position to do the stalk. And it was warm out. You're carrying a lot of gear with you, even after you drop for your staging point. And that was, it was a lot of fun, and I love it. I love doing that. But for me, I love the pheasant hunt. I think I'm just a little bit more cut out for that. But I do. I'll hunt. I've got guys that'll call me up and say, "Hey, meet us here. We're going to do this hunt." And if my family allows me a little bit more time away, I'll sneak off. But that's not that easy anymore. We've got the 2 older boys, and then we've got 2 little ones. I've got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So, and my oldest boy is heading off to college here to GCU this next semester. So there's a lot of chaos in the household.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it's good. It's always fun.
So tell us more about your business. What does Cummings provide for residents here in Fountain Hills?
So we're a general pest control company. We specialize in termite control. We specialize in general pest maintenance. We specialize in weed control. So those 3 facets are largely designed to help make our customers' lives a little bit easier. And we consider ourselves a public health company. So if we can prevent those rodents from infiltrating your envelope, then we've done you a tremendous service, right? That's what we're here for. We've got 55 different diseases that are associated with rodents, and we know that we have a pack rat population here in Fountain Hills. We know that we have a roof rat population here in Fountain Hills. I really appreciate rodents, but they are filthy. They are, and when I say rodents, that's a little bit general, right? I'm talking about commensal rats. So, and house mice are a nuisance as well. That's something that I think every home at some point in its history will end up having to deal with.
Is that an issue here in Fountain Hills? I've luckily never had me down here.
How about maybe
No.
Maybe.
Why do you have to say things that are going to keep me awake at night?
That's true. I don't mean to scare you. I don't want to scare you into service. Absolutely. I'm like, when our guys show up, you just got to feel really good about the fact that
They're going to be gone.
this guy is going to solve my problem. Right? That's what we do. So, and we just started to become a little bit more aggressive about our weed control. So that was something that we've been doing for about 8 years, and we just started to advertise for weed control on a much broader basis. It's done really, really well for us this season, and I actually gravitated toward it as one of my most enjoyable services, largely because those results are like it is available to you within days. Like you see what it is that we're doing, and you see the benefit. So, and one of the misconceptions is for all the individuals here that live here now that came from, let's say, the Midwest, out east. These yards we don't have a lot of grass here, but the weed pressure is unbelievably high. And this time of year, you've got your sow thistle, you've got your cryptantha, you've got your desert trumpet, you've got your brome. All of this stuff is just coming up, and we had a tremendous amount of rain this last season. And we needed it, and I love the rain for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's great for business, but it's so good for the desert. And we have the most biologically diverse desert in the world right here. And so when that rain comes down and everything turns green, it's pretty. So, but like I said, it is very, very good for our business.
Yes, because along with all those pretty flowers in the desert come all the weeds in your yard.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's good. It's a good staging point for new insect populations. You know, right now it's actually even in my own yard. I'm now starting to see American cockroaches. So,
Oh no!
So this is the season.
More things that'll keep me up at night. That's something I have zero tolerance for.
Well, I love customers like you. That's, so if you don't exist, our company doesn't.
That's right. I'm not going to be killing it myself. I'm calling somebody.
So I'm sure that with a business such as termite and pest control, and then also the weed control, a lot of interesting stories come out of that. I mean, I think any business that deals with animals has some unexpected twists and turns. So could you share a couple favorites?
That keep us up at night?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
this one won't.
No
So one comes to mind every time I get asked this question is, hey, tell us about something kind of crazy that's happened. Well, we received a phone call from a customer that was hearing something in their chimney. Now, if you understand sort of chimney constructions, you have your flue and then you have your framework. But out here, that framework is largely the stucco on the outside. Then you have this interstitial space between the flue and the frame. Well, we had to cut into the back side of this fireplace. The fireplace was centrally located in the home, so we were able to get in through the drywall. And once we got in there to discover what this noise was, there were 2 bobcat cubs.
No.
And what had happened is the mother had brought the cubs up to the roof and hid them underneath a roof eave. But it was a flat section of the roof with a sloped, pitched section of the roof coming over the top. So it was perfectly covered and protected. But up in the corner, there was no seal. So there was just a space. The cubs climb up in it and they fall all the way down. Now, they were fine, but this had been going on for 2 nights.
Oh no, and the mother had to have been.
And we assume so, but at some point, even the mother has to give up.
Right.
So we removed the kittens, handling them as minimally as possible, because you really don't want to disrupt anything about the kittens. And they are cute, by the way. They're adorable. I mean, it's almost like, I'm not a cat guy, but these things are unbelievably cute. We put them in a box with a towel out at the front entry of the home, allowing the kittens to call for the mother, hoping that that mother would come back, and she did not.
So what happened to the kittens?
So I took this box of.
It's not a sad story either.
This is not a sad. Okay. I was going to say we ate them, but we didn't. So yeah. So oh my gosh, this took a really weird turn. So these cubs, then I put them in a box, put them in the front seat of my vehicle, and there's a Southwest Wildlife Sanctuary up off of Dynamite Road, and I gave them a call, and they said, well, look, they said, by happenstance, we have a nursing mother up here now.
Oh wow!
And she has taken really well to basically orphaned cubs, and so he says, bring them on up, and so we were able to bring them on up and get them to the mother. And so I mean, it's a very happy ending to that story, but it's not something you see every day, even in pest control.
Right.
That's something that was pretty fascinating. So
yeah,
I really appreciate it.
I did not expect you to say there were bobcat cubs.
No, I didn't expect that's what we were going to find when we looked in there. So, and they are the noise that they make it's not like a house cat. It's pretty gnarly. So you can tell this isn't I don't know what this is, but
Chinese possession.
yeah, and I've got video of that too. I can send it over to you guys. So you can
that's
see.
cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that'd be awesome.
That's one story that just sticks out in my mind. I like to tell because it does. It has a happy ending and it's different. So
That's so cool.
Awesome. What are some helpful tips that you can give homeowners to keep, I would say, bobcats out of their chimney, but we already know seal up your roof. So about other pests.
yeah, one thing I always talk to my customers about is sanitation. Now, when customers hear sanitation, you're thinking filth, right? But sanitation is pretty broad. We also think of it in terms of clutter. So we don't want too much clutter around the home. We don't want too much clutter in the home. The garage space is probably the number one area that's under threat for not only general pest activity, but even termite activity. And the more clutter that we have, the more that we just don't know what's going on behind any of it. And if we have that clutter outside in our yards, we've created a lot of harborage area for rodents, for even scorpions, for crickets. I mean, crickets love to congregate in areas that might even emit a little bit of heat, and sometimes they find their way to the inside of the wall at a light outlet, or a power outlet, because that emits just enough heat. And you've got, typically what happens during construction is that insulation is pushed to the side so that box can be there. Well, it creates a void and it's perfect. So rodents also, if they can find their way to the inside of the wall, they'll pull that insulation out and use that as nesting material. So I'd say number one is sanitation. Make sure that you are cleaning up the dog droppings in your yard. You know, for all of us that have dogs, we know that that's an issue, and and filth flies will find that immediately, particularly in the summertime. It will take a matter of minutes and you'll have flies in your yard. Well, if you have dog droppings outside and you're inside eating and there's a fly on the inside of your house, think of where that fly may have been before it landed on the edge of your wine glass, you know. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I want people to make sure that they're taking inventory of all of these things around the house to give themselves a better opportunity to live comfortably without that type of activity. So yeah, definitely sanitation. Yeah.
Right.
Outstanding.
I think you kind of covered this with the roof rats and the pack rats, but what are the most common infestations that you come across serving in Arizona?
So infestation is a term in the industry that we use pretty carefully. So it's not commonly, right? We use that because any sort of pressure for some people is like, that's an infestation.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what,
more than one.
if you tell me it's an infestation, I'm not going to argue with you. That's an infestation, right? But we have certain environmental factors that will trigger certain insect populations. And it could be anything from milkweed bugs to, we had a beetle infestation in Fountain Hills not too long ago that carried all the way up to Rio Verde. And we had all of these little black beetles come into the garages by the thousands. But there was the humidity, the temperature, everything was just right to trigger that hatch. And that's cyclical. So when those type of events happen, we can keep that activity at bay, but we can't stop it, right? It has to run its course. But the one thing that we really want to prevent is any sort of rodent populations from getting or setting up basically setting up their home in your, let's say, your attic or your crawl space, because that's a filthy issue. And that in an infestation there is pretty broad. Like it could be 2 rats to 20 rats.
2 is an infestation.
2 is a lot. 1 is too many, right? Like I'm not. Like I said earlier, I appreciate rats because in our industry we hunt rats. We don't just trap them. We don't just control them. You have to hunt them because they are that smart. If you can't just introduce a trap into the environment and expect that rat to just stumble into that trap. Rats are neophobic, so if you introduce something in their environment that they're not familiar with, they're going to shy away from it. So we have to create an environment for them that's comfortable, something that they can trust, and then once they get comfortable with it, they emit pheromones through their droppings and their urine. Other rats follow, and then once you have them comfortable, now we can affect a plan. And that means getting the traps in their area of travel, because once they trust that pathway, they're going. But if they don't trust it, they're gonna avoid it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's pretty common out here. What are the type of rats? They get up in people's vehicles and they chew on the wiring. I know that that's an issue.
It is.
Is there something that people can do to prevent that, or is that one of those hazards that?
Well, you know, without shirking my responsibility as a pest provider, you know, a pest control provider, you know, there is some facet of acceptance that we have to have, because we live in an environment that is
absolutely
heavily populated with all kinds of things that were here many years before we were.
Correct.
Right.
But so the rodent that we're talking about, we refer to as the pack rat.
Oh yes,
right?
that's what it is.
It is a white-throated wood rat, is what it is actually called. And you can call it a wood rat for short, but that's cocktail conversation. You say, oh, that's a wood rat, you know, you can know something, because everybody calls them pack rats. And for good reason, because they grab material and debris and they hoard it, and that's what they build into their nest. I've seen Matchbox cars and, you know, Rice Krispie wrappers and all kinds of things in pack rat nests. Under the hoods of those vehicles in there, rodents don't like naphthalene. So a naphthalene is commonly found in mothballs. So if you're going to park a vehicle for a little while,
Yes.
it would behoove you to maybe take, you know, you can purchase the mothballs, put them in some cheesecloth, wrap them up. You can tie it. You can just drop these balls of cheesecloth with the mothballs in them in certain areas in order to drive them off. Now, it is not a permanent fix,
Sure.
but for that time where it's emitting that odor, you're going to drive a lot of that rodent activity away.
Fantastic.
Birds don't typically like it, and even vipers, you know, so rattlesnakes don't like that either.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is good to know.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. I feel like we learned a lot about the pest control industry.
I might have learned some things I didn't want to know,
Or
but
maybe a few, but
Well, you know what to call.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, if this isn't a problem, I got a solution.
Speaking of which, how can our business community, our residents, everyone, how can they contact you?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at cummingspest.com. And our phone number is 480-994-9599, and we have an office staff that is there full time. And if any of our customers have any questions that they would like me to personally answer, you can ask for me anytime. I've got an open door policy for employees and for customers alike. So
Wonderful.
that is part of my job now. I am there as a resource for those that need it.
Well, we certainly appreciate people like you.
yes.
Well, this will wrap up this episode of FountainCast. Nathan, thank you so much for being here
Thank you.
and giving us all of these wonderful tips on how to keep your home, your business, any space you have free of pests, termites, cockroaches, pack rats, all kinds of wonderful things, bobcats, you know, in your chimney. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you, and we'll see you all next time.
Don't forget to share FountainCast with friends, neighbors, clients, anyone in your network, and please like, rate, and review our show wherever you listen to your podcast. For upcoming events, join us for a 5 o'clock mixer August 8th. This is a great opportunity to network with fellow chamber members with great food, drinks, and supporting local. We also have our Holiday Classic sponsorships available now, so please help us rein in a feel-good Fountain Hills this holiday season with our Parade of Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving Day Parade, and Stroll in the Glow. Now, the Parade of Thanksgiving and the Thanksgiving Day Parade are not to be confused with one another. One is our event at the food bank, which you may be familiar with, to bring turkeys and side dishes over to the food bank. So keep that in mind for a little further down the line this year. If you have any questions about that sponsorship opportunity, you can reach out to Kristen at KRISTIN@fhchamber.com or give us a call at 480-837-1654. Head to the Chamber website for more details on all of our upcoming events, or to request to do your own podcast, uniquely Fountain Hills episode, send us editions for the newsletter, and so much more. Thank you, Fountain Hills, for continuing to be the best community.